said the best way to predict the future is to create it. And I've heard that said several different ways, and I think it was attributed to Peter Drucker, might have been attributed to Abraham Lincoln and a couple of others. And I'm not too worried about that, and I'm not even sure I quoted it exactly right. The idea is the future is unknown. Oh, no, is it? Well, yes and no. We've talked on here about creating life. And there's several questions. Well, what does that apply to? Or does it even work? Or like, what about all the stuff that happens? Well, let's get to some nitty gritty about that. And you can disagree, and it's fine. Or you can have a different experience about it. Here's what I've learned. I'm 66. I've lived through 35 years of massive MDD, major depressive disorder, all kinds of failures and addictions and everything else. In the last 15 years, I've spent on a fabulous, dedicated journey of self-growth and improvement. And in that time, I've created a coaching practice, written 16 books, 6 more underway, blah, 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 blah. Here's what I know about creating futures. Goals are not creating the future. Goals are ideas about what you might want to have. Passionate, raging goals are strong ideas, strong intentions, as it were, to create. And then, like it always does, life happens. You know, the weather is bad, so you can't go skiing, or there's no snow, so you can't do this, or it's raining on your camp out. Or the economy crashes and someone rips you off and there's a Ponzi scheme you invested in and you lost all your money. Or you get sick and your health is gone, or someone you know dies of COVID, or, you know, the list is long and that wasn't what you planned. And then we go to the place of, I can't have what I want because of all these things happening. Life is never going to turn out exactly like you want in terms of externalities. Here I am at 66. I never would have predicted 20 years ago or 30 years ago or even 10 years ago, although 10 years ago I would have had an idea, but 20 or 30, I would never have predicted that I'm here doing what I'm doing as an author with all these books and with a coaching practice with clients around the world and all this other jazz. I wouldn't have predicted that. I just wouldn't. It didn't seem like an extension of where my life was going, and that's because it wasn't. Life centers, the future centers around the maximization of pivot points. So life goes along like you expect, maybe only for a few minutes, but you can see a direction. But the direction we see is always an extension of the past. So I used to do this when I had a particular job. I would think about how much money I was making, and I projected forward, assuming annual raises and some promotions that I would get over the next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, when I was going to get to $100,000 in that job. And it was many years ago, in the 80s. When I was going to get to $100,000 a year, and what would have to happen to get to $150,000. Ooh, that was a lot. I could hardly even imagine such a thing. And what I would have to do to change, and would I have to change companies. But it was all based on my current understanding and framework. One of the biggest revelations that I had is that our current understanding and framework has nothing to do with how the world works. Things happen in an instant. I want you to think about this. Suddenly, over a period of a few days or a few weeks at most, a pandemic took over the world. And it has continued for now almost, we're up 2.5 years now. And, it's waxed and waned into how big it is and how many people it's killed and whether or not it's a conspiracy and all the rest that people talk about. But it sort of showed up suddenly. On February 24th of this year, 4 or 5 months ago, a mad, insane dictator invaded a neighboring country. And so that dramatically changed life for all the people there and did a whole bunch of things in the world. We had a huge recession in 2008. The real estate market crashed and all kinds of stuff happened. Those pivot points happen in two places. They happen from external events. A comet hit the earth and made the dinosaurs go extinct. Real estate market crashed and wiped out countless fortunes and made a lot of people start over. Pandemic came and caused us to shut down in more or less degrees for a couple of years. Those are external pivot points. You and I, we get to choose what to do with those pivot points. This is one of the things that I've loved about the pandemic, is because I've been able to help a whole bunch of people choose powerful decisions to take because of those pivot points. They're forced to leave their job and to look for something new. What they did before can't really continue and can't be done virtually. So now what? What is the opportunity here? Businesses change. I talked to somebody the other day whose whole business has been created because of the pandemic. So, and the rush to virtual. So everything's virtual, and now we're doing all that. Businesses have exploded many have exploded more than anyone ever imagined because of the acceptance of the digital and virtual world. I just was looking at a kind of a woo-woo weird thing about biotuning yesterday, which is a frequency thingamajig you do to your body to release chakras and, kind of woo-woo sounding stuff. And of course, they used to do those events in person. And one of the first things on the website was, well, we now do them remotely. And, we've discovered they're just as effective remotely. Well, I haven't ever had a biotuning session, and I don't know if it is or not. But what I do know is that is a common practice. To have not done things, to do them all in person, now do them remotely, and then just, wow, it works. And it works if you make it work. One of the things I do with my group coaching is I create it so that everyone has to come with their cameras on and fully attentive with nothing else to do, and they can't miss any of the weekly classes unless somebody's dying or something. And the reason is so that they can get full participation, because if you go to an event, you're sitting in a room, right? You're there, you block the day off, and you're not going somewhere else. But when we do these virtual things, we pretend that we can multitask. All right, so externalities are one thing that create these pivot points. And I have a client, I really enjoy her. She said she called it plot twists. And she was speaking particularly to her avatar, women whose career changes, they get fired, laid off, something. And so there's a plot twist in their life. And that is these externally imposed pivots. The other place that's far more important is internal pivots. Those can happen any moment. And here's how they happen. They happen when you decide you don't like the direction life is going. You might be tired of how you feel. You might be tired of how you look. You might be tired of the income you have or the relationship you have. You just get to a point where you say, enough, I'm done. And then you have a choice. Are you really going to pivot, or are you going to talk about pivoting, wish for it, hope somebody shows you an easy way to do it, or are you just going to turn the corner and go that way and see what happens? Now, the title of this is about predicting the future, and the quote is, the best way to predict the future is to create it. Whoever said that? Well, how do you create a future in a world of uncertainty, in a world where all these externalities happen? Well, the first thing you do is take fierce ownership of your life. I'm going to say something, and you're going to think I'm crazy unless you already know this, in which case you won't. Your experience all day long, every day, is yours to create. I don't care if your microwave explodes or your dishwasher quits, or you still create your experience of that thing. Are you choosing to view it as a burden, as a negative thing? Are you angry? Are you frustrated? Those are all choices. So if you decided right now that every single thing that happened to you was going to be fun, joyful, and you're going to learn from it. You just declared that. No one can take that declaration away from you. So what you've created is a life where every event is fun. You choose to have joy, and you see the positive and take the learning. Now, you might think that's crazy, but you could choose to do that. I know, because I have chosen to do that. One of my PTAC statements, and if you want to know what that is, ask me. One of my PTAC statements is I lean into the growth from every experience. Lean into the growth. So I've chosen, because I can, to view every experience as a positive opportunity. Why? Because I just decided to. No one made me, no one can prevent me or you from choosing that. So I choose to see, put on the glasses, the lenses of what is the positive thing here? What is the growth opportunity? Why? Why would I do that? Well, there's two reasons. One, I feel better about life when I do that. I don't get down in the dumps ever. I don't get frustrated and negative ever. It just doesn't happen. Why? I choose to live in positivity. One of the statements is, I am unconditional joy because I have seen eternity. Now, I can say it that way because I died in 2018, but I could say I am unconditional joy, and no one can disagree with you. Here's the fun part about this. You, right now, wherever you are, whoever you are, you can choose to have fun in every experience, to have it be joyful. It's got nothing to do with whether or not it is what you planned. It has only to do with whether you choose to find joy in it. And one of the things I am doing is I'm going to start in September a 90-day program called the Ultimate Life Transformation Experience. And I'm looking for 8 hardy souls, or 7 or 8 hardy souls that are interested in understanding how to create your future, how to take the reins of life and make it whatever you want. If that's you, then you need to tell me, because I'm only looking for 7 or 8. It's going to be rigorous, but your experience will be, you won't believe it. And the reason you won't, unless you're already one of those people that's busy doing that, in which case we can have some fun together and create the impossible. So if you want to have a future, like if you say to yourself, I'm going to wake up on Christmas this year, on December 25th, and have this in my life, no matter what it is. Well, okay, who can argue with you? There might be people that say you're crazy, you can't do that, blah, blah, blah. That's their view of life. If you declare it, what will keep you from that except a choice not to do whatever's required to get there? I challenge you and I invite you to take ownership of your life, because if I don't or you don't take ownership of our own life, somebody else is going to. We're going to live at their behest, into their agenda, at their schedule, and we're going to run around trying to make somebody else happy and do what we think they want forever. And that's not a happy place to be. I know, I've lived there. So I invite you to consider deeply what you want. Like really what you want and what you're willing to do to get it. I love it because I do that every day. I didn't used to do that at all. Now that I do, I create anything that I want, and you can too. The Ultimate Life Transformation Experience. And whether you do that or not, I encourage you with all my heart to take ownership of your life, not just conceptually, but every single day. Take ownership of your business if you have a business, and tell the truth about each event and how you can take good, take learning, and find joy in every event. It's possible. I'd love to have a conversation with you if you'd like to, but whether we do or not, know that I'm doing this because I love you. I want you to have the most glorious and powerful life imaginable, and I have confidence in your ability to create that right here, right now. See you tomorrow.